Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon if you're in the Eastern time zone like I am. We're going to go ahead and get started here. I do see a couple of people still joining, but I want to be cognizant of all of your time, so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Woody Johnson. I'm one of the sales engineers here at First Communications, and I'm going to be your host for today. Before we get started, it looks like the vast majority of those of you that have joined us today are current First Communications customers. So the most important thing I can say today is thank you for your business. We really appreciate it. If there's anything we can do to service you in the future, please let us know. Any kind of consulting or anything that we can do to help your business along, just please let us know. Today is one of a series of seminars that we do for customers and non-customers. Today we're talking about trends in the industry as far as cloud-based communication services or unified communication services, the unified communications as a service. So just 1 second on First Communications, though most of you are already familiar with us. We've been First Communications since about 1998. We are a Midwest-focused company, a telecommunications solution provider. So we can offer services nationwide, but our primary offices are throughout the Midwest. We're probably offering service to a little over 20,000 commercial accounts today. So I like to tell folks that aren't familiar with us when they ask me where I work, I basically say, look, I work somewhere where we're small enough to customize solutions for our customers, but we've got enough resources and we're large enough to be able to support some of the more sophisticated, more complex solutions out there, like managed services and cloud-based services. So I'm going to start with a couple of definitions. I tried to find a history of where the term the cloud comes from, and there's not a whole lot of agreement out there. There certainly isn't any official definitions out there for several of the terms that we'll probably use today, so there's no IETF or IEEE definition of the cloud, but basically when I'm talking about the cloud today, I'm talking about something that IT people have been doing for a long, long time. So if you're in IT today, you've been working things in the cloud for a long, long time. So you've taken business applications, organization applications, you've virtualized them, you've moved them to data centers. You've been doing those kinds of things for a long time. In the traditional telecommunications space, we've been very much equipment centric. So as a kind of an old telecom guy, I love putting a router or a switch or a PBX or other server, other equipment on customers' premise. And that's fine when it's appropriate, but today, especially in the last 10 years, even in the communications industry, we've become more and more virtualized and providing more and more services off-premise. So when I talk about the cloud, I'm basically meaning that we're going to deliver a communication service either through internet connections or private connections, and those services are going to be based on a platform that resides in the service provider's network somewhere. So in a service provider data center, and the service provider is providing all of the electrical and other things that are needed to keep that running so that you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. I will interrupt myself here for 1 second because I forgot an important housekeeping item. Everyone is muted right now, and if you have questions throughout this, in the bottom left-hand part of your screen, you should see a little blue circle with what is a little chat icon in the middle of that circle. So please, if you have a question, use the chat. No one else will be able to see it except me. And at the end of the presentation, I'll go through and answer as many questions as we have time for. So please go ahead and use the chat to ask your questions, and I'll take a look at the end of this. So another quick definition, unified communication. So over the years, we've developed a lot of ways to communicate with each other. So traditional telephony has been around for over 100 years. Instant messaging has been around forever. Voicemail's been around forever. Conferencing, like we're doing today, has been around forever. When someone takes these different communication methods and puts them under one platform and offers them to a customer under this platform inside the service provider's network, that's what we're basically talking about with unified communications. So things like voicemail to email, and things like being able to use your cell phone to mirror your desk phone, those kinds of things. That's what we're talking about. Tremendous growth in this space in the industry. So everyone knows what a PBX is, I think. PBXs have also been around for a long time. Started as an on-premise switch, which basically gave customers access to be able to share telephone lines coming into the location. In recent years, we've moved that more to an IP-based PBX. And so in an IP world, in an IP-based PBX, we're basically sending telephone calls and signaling over data networks. So everything, all the conversations are going out as data packets across local networks and wide area networks. So when we talk about cloud-based PBX, that means that we as a service provider are taking that platform, that IP PBX platform, and that could be virtualized in software, and having that, storing that, hosting that on our network. And so often you'll hear the terms cloud-based PBX or hosted PBX used interchangeably. So I enjoy, Gartner is a great research group, and I read one of their research papers that they put out last summer, and I found it pretty amazing because they said that they were estimating by 2020 about half of all small, medium businesses or organizations will have moved all of their business systems to the cloud. That's an amazing fact there when you think about it. So we're talking about way beyond right now just communications and cloud-based PBXs. We're talking about everything, and many of you out there may be doing that already. We're talking about your Office applications and moving that to Office 365, those kinds of things. Your CRM applications, possibly moving that to like a Salesforce.com. If you're in education, we're talking about Google Apps and Google Docs, all cloud-based applications that organizations are quickly moving to. Why are they doing this? Well, overall, they find it more productive. Certainly, there are the budget limitations and some other things that we're going to talk about in the next few minutes. But you've got a very mobile workforce, and everyone wants to be able to get their messages easily, contact others at the organization easily, and turn things up and down quite easily, as well as being road warriors in a lot of cases. And those are the demands of businesses and nonprofit organizations, which are kind of driving this whole move to the cloud. I'm going to go over a few reasons that you might want to consider in moving your business communications into the cloud. And I'll go over each of these separately, so I won't talk about them on this specific slide. But one of the first things that customers notice when they're researching this is that you basically have done away with capital expenses. That's very important today. Everybody's trying to save money, and everybody's trying to budget. Regardless of whether you're for profit or nonprofit, costs are a #1 issue for your organization. When you think about how it works, how traditional PBXs work, or even IP PBXs work, you're out there, you're possibly putting out an RFP, and you're looking to spend thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars on servers and equipment that is eventually going to get depreciated and need to be replaced in 5 years, 10 years, whatever that time frame might be. The new model, customers find it very attractive. It's basically a subscription model where you have sort of a per-seat price. So I have 10 phone users, and I'm going to pay a certain amount for a certain set of features each and every month. That all gets bundled in for the maintenance and for any kind of upgrades, moves, adds, changes, those kinds of things. All those kinds of costs all get bundled into this. One of the problems, and over the years I've helped customers and or responded to hundreds of PBX RFPs. One of the issues is none of us have a crystal ball. So we do the best planning that we possibly can. We issue an RFP. We look at where we think we're going to be next year and the year after. But it's inevitable that you just can't predict what's going to happen with your organization exactly. Will it double in size? Will it half in size? What's going to happen? Will you merger, or will you go through a merger with someone? When those things happen, you have some really negative surprises. You've got to buy more equipment. You've got to buy more phones. You may have to buy more traditional telephony circuits, like more PRIs, that kind of thing, more analog lines. Those expenses can be pretty tremendous. In a cloud-based model, it's very easy to go back and forth and basically order what you need. So the lack of upfront capital expense and the lack of ongoing capital expense is definitely a major appeal to moving to cloud-based communications. Managed services, I mentioned I love Gartner, but sometimes they spend a lot of money telling us things that we've known for a long time. Worldwide IT spending has been flat, nearly flat, or on slight decline for a long, long time. It wasn't just 2016, and if you're in the industry out there, you know it. And so as we do our best to use these expensive IT resources that we all use, anything that you can outsource to a managed provider, outsource as a managed service, is going to be a good thing for you. Traditionally, IT, because at least in the last few years, because they're technology gurus generally, are the ones saddled with handling turn-ups and installing new PBXs and phone equipment and those kinds of things. In a cloud-based service, this is a much easier proposition, and when you've got someone basically outsourcing that for you, you obviously have the chance to free up some of those resources to do things that's more important to your organization. I skipped a slide, an important one actually, resiliency. We do a separate seminar. In fact, we're going to do another one, a webinar here in a few weeks on disaster recovery and designing and creating disaster recovery plans and templates. It's inevitable that when an organization goes through disaster recovery planning, if they've got applications on site or in their own data center or somebody else's data center, they're concentrating on those things. Why? Because if I lose those business applications that I'm running, my business stops. It's also very expensive. So what are you going to do? Are you going to mirror all of your applications in another data center somewhere, a service provider's data center? Are you going to back it up and hope for the best and hope you can retrieve all of that information when you need it if you do have a disaster? There's several things you do, but inevitably, voice communication is kind of left off that whole template. It's talked about, but you get to the point where you say, you know, it's kind of like an insurance policy. You say, is it worth it to me to mirror my PBX in a data center somewhere for the event when I have that disaster and all my voice communications is down? In a cloud-based scenario, in a cloud-based service, you should be expecting your service provider to take care of that diversity for you. So your service provider should be providing that platform in geographically diverse centers, and that service provider should be able to help you set up software-based routing that will take your calls wherever they need to go, to cell phones, to other locations, in the event of a disaster. That takes a lot of the disaster recovery planning and burden off of you as an organization and as a leader of an organization. Scalability, and we've kind of been skirting around this and talking about it quite a bit. Again, we don't know what's going to happen 2 years down the road. You know, are we going to grow quickly? You know, or are we going to be moving our organization somewhere, physically moving? When you're doing cloud-based communications, those things become not completely seamless, but they become very easy for you. So it's easy to scale up and down the number of accounts or handsets or seats, if you will, that you can use. If you're going to move, you know, down the street or to another building, once you can get some internet access, you can at least just plug those phones in. They'll come back up, and you're going to be back in business as far as your voice telephony goes. So scalability is very important as well. And simplicity. So this is an interesting study from, it's been about 18 months now, from Deloitte, that they went out and surveyed thousands of businesses across the world, actually, and found that more than 7 out of 10 organizations rated the need to simplify work a pain point in their business. Well, that's really interesting, and cloud-based services do help you along those lines. So being able to not worry about a separate voicemail system, being able to not worry about a separate presence system to know if people are online or not, being able to combine those under a unified communications type of platform does simplify everything. It simplifies everything from the fact of perhaps just how many passwords and usernames you got to remember, but also basically to get your messages. Voice tag is voicemail tag is not nearly the issue it is when you're under a UCaaS type of a platform. So basically, most providers offer services on a kind of a per seat basis. So you select a set of features, and that per seat basis it is a monthly cost for you. That's basically how these work for most providers again. All kinds of basic capabilities. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but everything you can think of from doing auto attendance and hunt groups to being able to simultaneously ring phones and find me, follow me kinds of services. And one of the last reasons people are really looking at moving to cloud-based communications is that you no longer have to worry about the upgrades. And so with anything that you own on site, any kind of technology, you've got to worry about end-of-life types of things. You've got to worry about patches, and particularly security patches. Your service provider is doing this for you in a cloud-based scenario. What that all adds up to is exactly what everyone wants, and that's a more productive workforce. And again, there's been quite a bit of research here in recent years about what happens when you do move to more of a unified communications type environment. Many organizations are announcing that they're having tremendous amounts of improvement in productivity, and that eventually is going to lead to increased customer satisfaction scores. Here's one of the productivity. Mobility is really one of the productivity benefits that folks find. Everyone is an office warrior today. Everyone is available 7/24, so you're not sitting at a desk. I know here at First Communications, we couldn't live without some of the mobility features of our hosted platform that we use. I happen to be out of an office where we have several executives, and they are constantly traveling, and I'm glad to offer them an easy way to leave the office. I hope there was a couple of chuckles around that, other than with the FirstCom executives who might be on the call. But let me give you a couple examples. Some of our folks run apps on their cell phones, and that app basically turns your desk phone or your cell phone into your desk phone. So calls that come into your desk phone will ring your cell phone, your mobile phone as well. You can place calls outbound from that app, and it looks like it's coming from your desk. You can also control features from that app. So you can put your phone in Do Not Disturb and send it directly to voicemail, those kinds of things, as well as have your voicemail delivered as an email to you, as an email attachment, or as a text, an attachment file to a text. The other thing we do is a service we call hoteling, a feature we call hoteling, and that's very nice. If you regularly travel between certain offices, you can, rather than carry an app or worry about your cell phone, just arrive at the office, you sit down at a desk and log into that phone with your personal login. And now that phone takes all the features of your phone as if it's back in the office. So everything you've set up for your phone in the office works exactly the same way. Any calls coming in come directly to that phone, and any features you set up work exactly the same as well. So if you've been investigating this, what should your next steps be? And it's pretty simple. We'll talk about them a little bit. First and foremost, kind of take an inventory of what you need. Where is your organization at? Is it new? Are you just a startup? Or have you just started up a new organization or a brand new business? What kind of needs would you have in that case? Well, you may want to make your organization look a little larger than it is, or put on a very professional appearance. So you might want an auto attendant, and you might want to set that up for different departments. Press 1 for sales, press 2 for service. But those calls obviously could be going to exactly the same person in the organization. Many companies do this. If you're expanding or scaling or merging or purchasing other companies, you have a little bit different of a challenge. So you may find out that your sales organization has a completely different set of needs for their telephony than the service organization. In fact, you'll find that out for certain. So in a scenario where you've got a cloud-based system, you aren't forced into purchasing more than you need. So for a particular seat, a particular phone, a particular department, or a particular group of phones, you can set up features just for them and change them whenever you need them. So it doesn't cost you anything additional to set someone up in as a part of a department and set that department up the same for everyone. So it makes it much easier to kind of bring everyone into the fold, so to speak. And if you're optimizing for any reason, you may have a different set of issues that you're working with. Number one, you may need to maintain costs while you're making sure that you provide enough services to all of the users in your organization or all of the users in your company. So your number one step is to figure out, what do I need today? What could help my organization or my business that I don't have that I'd like to see in a new cloud-based system? So you attempt to match your needs to potential service partners. This might be the most complex part of this. We've seen how, the growth in unified communications. We've seen how quickly this is occurring, and that adoption of that unified communications and service type of platform. With that, it brings out dozens, hundreds, not dozens, it truly is hundreds of service providers. So as you go out there and you start to do your research, it's going to be a little bit complicated. Since most of you are First Communication customers, I hope you have some comfort level with us and are willing to contact us as one of the potential providers that you'll use for cloud-based communications. But definitely not all providers are created equal, and maybe your biggest challenge is going to be to weed out some of the folks that either don't provide 7x24 service or don't provide training or some other things that you would fully expect with a new telephony system. And then ask for a demo. We do many demos here at First Communications. I'm involved with some of them. Some of our other sales engineers are. Our sales reps and account managers are out doing demos every day. I encourage you to have a conversation beyond reaching out to your account manager, your sales rep, or your sales engineer and saying, hey, I'd like to see a demo of how this works. Give them some advice on what you'd like to see. If you're not using voicemail to text today and you'd like to, ask them to demo that. Say, hey, when you come out to meet with us, demo this part of it. Demo the GUI interface you have for the portal. Demo call routing and how it can get changed. How do you change an auto attendant? Whatever it is that's important to your business, bring that up. Don't leave it up to the service provider to decide, well, here, I'm going to do my standard demo for you and have a nice day. So definitely the more advice, the more direction you can give to the service provider that's going to do the demo for you, the better job they're going to be and the easier it is for you to be able to make a very important decision. So ask a lot of questions. What kind of platform do you use? Are there other services involved? So one of the questions we often get during this kind of a webinar is, this is VoIP, this is voice over IP, so is it secure? The short answer is yes, it's secure. The long answer is you need to work with someone that understands those concerns and possibly can assist you to get to where you need to be. Again, at the very basics, remember, we are now sending voice over IP, inside of IP data packets. So it is going to be as secure as you as a customer and your service provider make it, just like your data communications is today. So if you have resources available at your service provider that can provide some recommendations on firewalls or a complete managed security, if you want to look at putting that service into the cloud as well, you've got really an advantage if those folks can help you get through those security discussions and help you understand what's important. That's just one example, but definitely ask as many questions as you can, and definitely ask to see the portal and see how it works and see how easy it is to do moves as changes. Obviously, we do provide the service of first communication, and I'll just briefly talk about it. I encourage you, please, to contact your salesperson or sales engineer, or just call our general support number and ask for some additional information about our service. But it is, in fact, as simple as we provide phones on site, and everything else is done in the cloud. That platform is in the cloud. The features are in the cloud. The voice messaging is all in the cloud. You don't need separate voice messaging servers on site. So it's a very feature-rich service that we provide. And so it provides all of the things you would expect from a modern PBX, things like hunt groups and auto attendance, but also those UCaaS type features like voicemail to email, the ability to be able to walk away from your desk and push a call onto your cell phone, or exactly the opposite, come up to your desk, you're talking on your cell phone and can push that call back to your desk. All of those kinds of things, plus things that were generally thought of in the past as central office type features. So if any of you are still using Centrix type features or similar features, those would be things like centralized voicemail for everyone, abbreviated 3 or 4 digit type dialing between sites. Those kinds of things in a central office environment are also part of this. Of course, inherent redundancy. We talked about resiliency earlier, but inherent redundancy is also part of this. So it is very easy to do moves as changes. It's easy to add new phones. It's easy to move things around, to make changes. It's pretty much a mouse click for many of the things that you want to make. And it's fairly intuitive with just a little bit of training to be able to do that on your own if you'd like. So if you decide you'd like to pursue this a little bit more with First Communications, it's pretty much work with your salesperson and your sales engineer, figure out what set of features you might need. There's only a couple to choose from. Generally, the very least expensive feature or feature package works for many customers. We've got a couple of different manufacturers, a dozen or so models of phones that you can choose from. And then there are some customization. That's not anything hidden. The packages and the phones will give you probably 90% or 95% or more of all of the features that your organization needs. But there are a couple. The best example I can think of is we're working with a local city. I happen to be in Ohio, and we're working with a local city in Ohio. And the packages that they've chosen fit almost everyone's needs except for the police department. The police department has half a dozen or so phones that they want the ability to record calls on. So the ability to record calls and store that in the cloud, so to speak, is one of those add-on features, and they are adding that on to a half a dozen or so phones. What's, again, nice about doing this kind of service in the cloud is that you're not stuck with a certain amount of features for a certain phone. You can mix and match features and phones in any way you'd like. Just a little bit about implementation here. We are turning up probably several hundred seats a month at First Communications right now. We've been doing this for a couple of years, and so we found that a team environment, a dedicated team environment, works best with customers. So that team is led by a project manager. That project manager from FirstCom is your first point of contact, and basically matrix manages all of the other resources that might be required. That might be a sales engineer in the very beginning. You certainly need some, what I'll call programming engineers. We call them customer service engineers, but programming engineers that are doing all of the feature turn-ups, those kinds of things. There's training required. You can never turn this up, so we train customers on both the phones as well as train them on the portals, and there's several training options. And of course, we've got 365 by 24/7 support after the sale. I think, well, one more note. If you don't know who your account manager is or your salesperson at FirstCom, or you happen to be joining us today and you are a non-FirstCom customer, we did set up a toll-free number for you to call. It's 866-261-0259. And if you call that number, the person that answers it, to just mention I was on the UCaaS webinar talking Cloud PBX. I have a couple of questions. They will help get you pointed to the right person, be that someone like myself, a sales engineer or a salesperson, etc. So I do thank you for your time. We're going to take a look here and see what kind of questions we have.